Alright, so let's talk about this. Patchy Mix is finally making his UFC debut, and he's stepping up on short notice against Mario Bautista, replacing Chito Vera. Now, if you're just a casual fan, you're probably like, okay, cool, just another guy. I don't know who's stepping in, but whatever. But hold on, Patchy ain't just some other guy, kid. This is a legit, dangerous addition to the bantamweight division, and this matchup is way more exciting than people realize. Patchy Mix has been doing work outside of the UFC. The dude has been dominating in Bellator. We're talking about the former Bellator bantamweight Grand Prix winner, a guy who's 19-1, riding a 6-fight win streak, and he's finishing top tier competition in style. I mean, he's a grappling monster, like next level back control, body triangle lock in Python, and once he gets your back, you're probably going to be sleeping or tapping. He's submitting guys like Rafael Stotts and Magomed Magomedov, both of whom are absolute animals. And now he's coming to the UFC with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. This isn't a guy who's just happy to be here. Patchy Mix is coming to take heads and shake up the division. He's 5'11" at bantamweight too, so he brings that freakish length and size that gives people nightmares in scrambles and grappling exchange. It's not just a physical tool either. The guy has composed fight IQ and killer instincts. He's actually legit, but this is important. He's not without some holes, obviously. Patchy's striking is still kind of raw. It's serviceable, sure, but you're not turning to see him win a kickboxing match, let's be honest. Most of his stand-up is there to get him into the clinch range or set up a takedown. And if he's forced into a pure striking battle against someone who can keep the range and punish entries, that's where things get a little bit dicey. His hands aren't slow, but he's definitely hittable, and his defense on the feet hasn't been tested the way it will be in the UFC. I'll tell you that right now. Also, we gotta talk about how he reacts when game plans don't go his way. There have been fights like the one with Juan Anchuleta where he got out wrestled and he couldn't implement his ground game and he looked a little lost. Now, to his credit, he's improved a lot since then, especially his cardio and his patience. But it's fair to say if someone can stuff his takedowns or flip the script and make him defend on the ground, we'll see what kind of adjustments he can make at this level. So yeah, Patchy Mix is a serious threat and a fresh face in a stacked bantamweight division, but we're about to find out real quick how well his skills translate. If he can steamroll Mario Bautista, people are going to start throwing his name into contender conversation fast. But if he struggles to impose his grappling or gets exposed on the feet, then it could become a real welcome to the UFC moment. Either way, this ain't just a filler fight. It's a big one, especially if you know what Patchy brings to the table. With all that being said, let's talk about the matchup between Patchy Mix versus Mario Bautista. So stylistically, this is a really intriguing clash. Bautista is one of those guys who's quietly been putting it all together and a solid UFC run in general. He's well-rounded, he's fast, he's got good cardio, and more importantly, he's not afraid to mix things up. He's got sharp combinations, solid footwork, and he shows flashes of slick ground game too. But here's the key difference. Bautista is a generalist, and Patchy Mix is a specialist. A dangerous one, that is. Patchy doesn't just grapple, he suffocates. If he gets to your back, it's basically a wrap. So the big question here is, can Mario keep this fight in his world? Can he stay upright, pump the jab, dig those calf kicks, and circle out of danger? Because if he can't stop those level changes, he's gonna find himself backpacked real quick. And it's not like Bautista has never been taken down. I mean, Travis Jones was able to get him to the mat, and Patchy's a much better grappler than Jones. But at the same time, Patchy hasn't fought someone quite like Bautista inside the UFC. Someone with the decent takedown defense, high pace, and just enough unpredictability to make life tricky. There's also the short notice factor. Patchy stepping in without a full camp, and while he's always in shape and staying active, that still matters. Bautista has time to prep, even if his original training was for Chito. That might have gave him an edge in the early rounds, especially if he can make Patchy work and test that gas tank late. So yeah, this one comes down to control. If Patchy Mix can drag this into his world early, he could probably dominate. But if Mario Bautista can survive those early grappling blitz, stuff a few takedowns, and keep it striking heavy, things could get very interesting down the stretch. It's a classic striker versus grappler setup with some new school wrinkles, and whoever dictates this pace first is gonna run away with it. And here's the thing, both guys have something to prove here. I think for Patchy Mix, this is about validation. Like, yeah, he's been in there with big fish in Bellator, but this is the UFC. This is the proving ground. If he comes in and dominates a guy like Bautista, who's already strung together a few quality wins, it's immediately gonna put him on the map. We're not talking about let's ease him in. We're talking about throwing him into killers and seeing what kind of noise he can make. This debut isn't just about a test, it's a statement opportunity. And I think for Mario Bautista, it's almost the opposite. He's the one that's defending the UFC turf in my opinion. He's been grinding his way up to the rankings, quietly beating some solid competition, and now he's being asked to stop the hype train before it even gets rolling. And let's be real, if he pulls this off, he steals all that momentum. This could be the fight that gets him through that breakout push. Nobody remembers the guy who beats the short notice replacement, unless the replacement was Patchy Mix. Another thing to consider is the pace. Bautista thrives in high tempo fights. He flows well, he throws in volumes, and scrambles with intent. He's not a guy who wants to sit still, but Patchy, if he gets control, can just freeze you. He slows the whole rhythm of the fight, keeps you glued to the mat, eats up the clock, and forces you to play his game. So it's not just a matter of skill, it's about who can set the tempo. Can Bautista stay moving, or does Patchy grind this into a grappling clinic? Also, you gotta keep in mind the mental battle. Patchy's coming in with the confidence, maybe even borderline swagger, but this isn't hostile territory. The UFC cage, the lights, the pressure, it's different. Some guys fold under that. Others rise to the occasion, and honestly, if he shows up and performs like he's been, this could be the start of a serious run. So yeah, whether you're here to see if Patchy's the real deal, or you think Mario Bautista is about to shut down all that noise, this is one of those fights that might not look like much on paper to the casual fan, but it could end up being one of the most important bantamweight matchups of the year. Whichever way it goes, someone's stock is gonna skyrocket. And look man, I get it. A lot of people want to see Mario Bautista lose, especially after how that Aldo fight played out. He leaned heavily on the clinch, held Aldo against the cage for most of that fight, and squeaked out a win that a lot of fans thought was undeserved. And when you're fighting a legend like Aldo, that kind of game plan just doesn't sit right with people. There wasn't really any bad blood or trash talk, but the way it went down left a sour taste. So now going into this fight, there's definitely a crowd rooting for Patchy Mix to come in and humble him. And honestly, he just might, because stylistically, Patchy Mix is a nightmare for someone like Bautista. Mario thrives when he's dictating the pace, when he's flowing on the feet, mixing in his own grappling and keeping the opponent reacting. But Patchy doesn't let you play your game. He drags you into deep water. He slows things down. He smothers the explosiveness and makes you think about every little movement. If Patchy can get inside, press Mario to the cage, and turn this into a clinch heavy, drag you down, gritty grind fest, it's gonna get dark really fast. He's not just shooting a double leg and hoping for the best. He's chaining takedowns, transitioning like a demon, and the second he gets your back, that's basically his checkmate. And again, he's got that freaky length for a bantamweight. Even getting outside of bad spots against him is harder than usual. Now, Mario's tough, no doubt about it. He's fast, scrappy, and he doesn't fold. But Patchy has made a career of breaking guys who don't usually get broken. There's a real shot he overwhelms Bautista, drowns him in pressure, and either snatches a submission or rides out a dominant decision. And if that happens, I'm going to celebrate and get a beer on that day. That's Patchy Mix making a statement in his debut, and it's doing it against a guy a lot of people are hoping to get humbled. Now let's talk about the big question. Do I think Patchy Mix could be a champion in the UFC? Honestly, yeah, I think it's possible. I'm not going to sit here and say he's locked to hold the belt, but if there's anyone coming into the bantamweight division with the potential to shake up the top 10 and go all the way, I do believe it's Patchy Mix. He's got a very real X factor with that grappling. His ability to take backs and controls guys is elite, even by UFC standards. We've seen champions like Aljamain Sterling make a living off taking backs and controlling heavy jiu-jitsu, and Patchy Mix can be the more dangerous in that department. He doesn't just control, you can feel the urgency and the threat. The guy's always hunting for the finish. Physically, he's a nightmare matchup. That guy is 5'11", frame with long limbs at 135. That's rare. He uses it too well. It's not just for show. It helps him set traps on the ground, snatches chokes in transitions, and leverage positions. And most guys can't even hold that. And mentally, he fights with his calmness, doesn't rush bad spots, and he knows how to drown guys without blowing his gas tank. But here's the thing, if he wants to be a champion, he's gonna have to round out the rest of his game, because right now, his striking is just good enough to get him into grappling range. but against the elite like Sandhagen, O'Malley, even Merab or Umar, he's going to have to offer more on the feet. If he can't threaten with those strikes, those guys will sprawl and brawl all night or pick him apart from distance. His stand-up isn't bad, but it needs refinement, especially defensively. So yeah, the potential is 100% there, but it's gonna come down to how much he evolves from here. If he can tighten up the striking, improve his entries, and deal with anti-wrestlers who are just as long and athletic as him, then yeah, I absolutely see him in a title fight. But that's what makes his debut so important. Mario Bautista is a great test. If Patchy runs through him, it sends a message to the division that he's not here to hang out. He's here to take over.